And we are live. Sorry for the delay there, but this is the June 8th edition of the Pittsburgh Sport News video cast. Myself, John Penline, Gar Mercury off screen, and we're working to get our special guest, Bryson Spratling, here from the Pitt men's track and field team. He's a hell of an athlete, so stay tuned for him coming on. But, John, how are you this week? A lot has gone on in a short time.
I'm depressed. I'm just depressed, all right?
Why are you depressed?
Because the Pirates draft sucked, because the Penguins are going to wait another 2 weeks till they get a head coach, and because Virginia lost yesterday, so now they have to beat Maryland back-to-back times, and I don't know, Maryland is just like UConn right now when it comes to baseball. They shouldn't even be in this tournament. They shouldn't even be this far, and yet they're one win away from going to the College World Series. It's annoying.
Well, I guess you do have a little bit of reason to be depressed as far as sports are concerned. But, yeah, I'm doing fine as well. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. But so let's get started like we always do with our Athlete of the Week. We're going to go with Jordy Mercer. He's sucked this year as a whole, but he just had his, 6-game hitting streak snapped yesterday as he went 0 for 4. Over the past week, he put up a 2 for 4, 4 for 5, 2 for 4, 1 for 4, and another 2 for 5, including a big homer. So Jordy's trying to fight off the man they call Josh Harrison. I guess they should say the legend, in case they want to put him there when that Gregory Polanco guy, whoever that is, gets the call up to Pittsburgh. So while we wait for Gar and Bryson to join our podcast here, let's get started with the Pirates draft talk, since you brought that up first, how you're not very pleased with it. They drafted number 24 overall, and then they had the number 39 competitive balance pick because they traded Brian Morris for it. At this point, would you rather have Brian Morris or the guy they drafted at that spot, Connor Joe, the outfielder from San Diego?
No, I'd rather have Connor Joe. I mean, it's no question. Brian Morris is terrible. Even if Connor Joe never makes it out of low A ball, I'd still rather have him than Brian Morris.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise that they went Joe at that spot, but that they took shortstop Cole Tucker as their first overall pick out of Mountain Point High School in Arizona. He's 6'3", 195-pound swish hitter. So a lot of people thought, it might be Jacob Gatewood, it might be Monte Harrison, and the Pirates just drafted, who'd you say he looked like? Pauly Shore?
Yeah, he looked like Pauly Shore or the kid that plays the pitcher in the Rookie, which hats off to Gar for spotting that one.
In the Rookie, is that Frank?
Dennis Quaid.
What was that?
It's with Dennis Quaid. It's the
oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it was interesting to say the least. I was pretty shocked. I thought they might have drafted Tucker there to save some money, like the Brewers did with their first overall pick, to save the swap money for Gatewood and Harrison. But whenever you take Connor Joe at 39, it makes you kind of scratch your head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking here. I've got, up until like the last 2 picks before their second pick, the same top 5 guys on the board were there. Sean Reed-Foley, Jacob Gatewood, Monte Harrison, Derek Fisher, and I believe it was Luis Ortiz. And they passed on him again, and I don't understand it. I mean, obviously we don't know how this is going to pan out. Tucker, Colt Tucker, whatever his name is, he can end up being like the best shortstop of all time. But when you take him this early, and I know that everybody has their own rankings. You can't just go by Baseball America or ESPN, but I have a tough time believing that Cole Tucker was on somebody's board in the first round. And if that's the case, then you know what? He has to be better than some of the guys that were taken after him, because there was no reason to take Cole Tucker in that spot. I mean, you could argue right now that their best pick was their 3rd pick when they took Keller. And they still have to sign him out of North Carolina, which is really tough.
I'm right there with you. I was very surprised when I first saw that. It kind of reminded me of the year they took Tony Sanchez in the first round, because it's a different scenario, I understand, but he was projected to be like a 4th round pick or something out of Boston College, and the Pirates make him a top 10 pick. So that kind of surprised me as well. And we have Gar on with us now. Gar, we're talking about the Pirates draft, talking about them taking Pauly Shore, a.k.a. Cole Tucker, and then taking Connor Joe, number 39 overall. How surprised were you?
Well, I'm actually coming in live from Kandahar, Afghanistan right now, so it's good to see you guys. Yeah, he kind of actually he reminded me. That's a funny one. I didn't think of that one first, but I also thought our first round draft pick. There he is. There's my man Bryson Spratling.
How you guys doing?
How we doing?
I'm good.
Good. All right, we're gonna cut off the Pirates talk, and we're just gonna get into a little interview with you here, guys. We're with Bryson Spratling. He was named back-to-back ACC Male Athlete of the Week this year out of Pitt from the track and field team. So, Bryson, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, you're heading out to Eugene, Oregon here in a week or two, correct, for nationals?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, is that for the relay or is that individuals?
That's for my open 400 and the 4x4 relay.
And you took second place last year there at nationals, correct?
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago?
I got second, and last year I think I got 10th or something like that.
Okay, and was it last year or 2 years ago at Indianapolis that you set the national collegiate record for your time in the 500 meter, which honestly I didn't even know was a race?
Yeah, that was last year at Big East Championship.
At Big East. Now, did you know that you broke the record at the time, or going into the weekend? Did you have any idea what that record was?
Yeah, 2 years ago I broke it, so it was my record to break again, and so when I crossed the line, yeah, I knew I broke the record.
Okay. Bryson, that's an American record too, right? It's not just NCAA; it's an American record.
Right.
And
Gar's our track guy here, so Gar, go ahead. Fire away some questions.
No, you're doing real well there. Bryson, we did a feature on you a couple months back, and one of the coolest things about your story is you're really new to the sport. I mean, even now, you started running your senior year, correct?
Correct.
And you were a guy who was mainly into basketball. And tell us a little bit about how you got involved in track, and maybe who got you finally convinced that it was the sport for you.
Well, it was somewhat new. I actually ran track in 8th grade for a year. After that, I kind of just lost interest and decided to play basketball. And it was my mom that finally told me, you should probably just go out for the track team. And I couldn't play basketball my senior year anyway, so I decided to just run track.
It's funny. I mean, you go from, you had a little exposure your 8th grade year to becoming a New York State champion. You earn a full scholarship to Eastern Michigan. I mean, that's quite a jump in a very short period of time. I mean, that must have really been a whirlwind for you, huh?
Yeah, it all happened so fast. It was it was an exciting time though.
Now, I know Michael got a little bit involved in some of the accolades, and you've got a lot of personal accolades. There's no doubt about it. But I think one of the coolest things going into this weekend is you've been a conference champion in 3 different conferences. I mean, because Pitt moved to the ACC this year, so you've actually been a MAC conference champion, a Big East conference champion, and an ACC conference champion. I tried to do some research and figure out if that had ever happened before, and I had never seen it. I mean, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's something that I definitely pride myself on, and yeah, I mean, for me to have done that, just for myself coming into this year, I knew that was one of my goals that I wanted to accomplish. So to get it, I was excited about it.
Now, Michael is actually going to be in your backyard. He actually is in Oregon right now, and he works out there for a local paper. So maybe you can convince him to come out this weekend to Hayward Field. I mean, to go to Hayward Field, I mean, for people that don't know much about track and field, it's probably the venue in all of track and field. I mean, it's the mecca. It's like
Right.
it's like Yankee Stadium or some Fenway Park. So you got to be excited. I mean, you're going with 4 of your teammates. Evan Thompson is going 400 hurdler,
Right.
and your 4x4, and obviously you've got Carvin and Kanata, who another guy who has a chance to maybe potentially be an NCAA champion this
Right.
week.
And also Desmond in the 400
And
hurdles
Desmond
also.
Palmer, yep. So that's got to be so exciting for you guys. I mean, you all have a chance to definitely make the medal stand, correct?
Correct. We're all sitting pretty well on the standing so far. So.
You're seeded first in the 400 meters. I mean, no pressure. I mean, you're almost into that 44-second range, which
Right.
is world class. I
Right.
mean, obviously the goal is to find a way, huh?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get it done. I think I know what I need to do. Coach Webb prepared me to run 44 seconds, so it should be a good weekend.
John, Mike, I mean, you want to jump in? I feel like I'm taking over here.
John, you got anything?
I don't really. Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm not really sure what to ask. I mean, I guess like what brought you to Pitt? I mean, obviously, if you started in the MAC conference, so you transferred over. But what exactly brought you over to Pittsburgh rather than maybe another ACC school like Virginia, for example?
Yeah, I mean transferring from Eastern Michigan, I still wanted to stay closer to home. I took a bit. Coach Webb was recommended to me by a coach back home in New York. So I went on a visit, and from there on out, it was the only visit I went on after Eastern Michigan, and I signed right away, and I loved it as soon as I got there, and it just worked out for me. So that's how I ended up at Pitt.
Now, do you have any aspirations for making a roster in, say, the 2016 games, or?
Yeah, that's a big goal of mine. It's not gonna be easy. The 400 is probably one of the toughest races to run if you're an American, and I mean, I'm gonna go out there and see what I can do. I definitely should be able to if I keep progressing like I have been. So that's definitely one of the long-term goals for me.
Now, you're studying criminal justice, correct? Now, are you on track to graduate, or did you just graduate?
In August.
There you go.
I'm taking one class right now, so.
Oh yeah, keep him busy then with your
Yeah.
training and one class. So, but you are interested. If I remember correctly, talking to you before, you're interested in getting involved in like crime scene type of stuff, like CSI type of investigations.
Yeah, I'm a criminal justice major with a focus on forensic science, so it's tailored to forensic science. So.
Very, very cool.
In the area, or are you looking to go back to New York?
I guess we'll see once I'm done running wherever it takes me, but it really doesn't matter where. But it's something I would like to do, though.
Now, you talked about maybe qualifying for the Olympics. What are the steps that one has to take in order to qualify?
Well, first you have to qualify for Olympic trials. I'm not sure what the exact qualifying time is. It might be like 45.5 or something like that.
Now, is that held at some kind of like combine, some kind of thing, or is it from your senior years, from your senior year times?
You can throughout the year if you make that time at any meet that you go to, they'll invite you down, and then from there you just have to pretty much win. Top two, I think you. Well, first you have to hit the Olympic standard time. I know that. So you hit that Olympic standard time, and you beat the other guys in at Olympic trials, and they invite you out to the Olympics, and you're there. And then I know they take the next people there to be a part of the relay. So
In the relay, you anchor it, right?
yeah.
Okay. Now, I have to ask this just because I'm an Oregon fan. Have you had the chance to run against DeAnthony Thomas?
No, I don't. He's a little bit too quick for me in the 100. I don't. He runs 100, and I've seen him run a couple of times, and he's really fast.
So he's as fast as he looks on the football field or on the track. Then.
Yeah, he looks a lot faster on the track.
Oh,
I'll tell you that.
That's one person that I wish I could have seen run before.
Yeah, he's really fast.
Now I'm looking at the entry list for the 4x4, which is my favorite event on the track, along with the 400 meters. That's kind of what I specialize in coaching. I
Right.
see that Oregon is actually seated right below you guys. Now, Michael is a huge Oregon fan. We're not going to allow Oregon to steal Pitt's lunch this weekend, correct?
Definitely not. I want to make sure that I want to make sure that we stop that from happening. We got them indoor, so hopefully outdoor is the same thing.
Now, I've got to ask, you are seated first in the 400 meters, but you got Norwood, Hugh Green, Dion Lendor, who is already got an Olympic medal to his repertoire from the last Olympic Games. I mean, you're ready to go, though. I see you talking on Twitter with some of those guys, so you have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
Don't forget to give us your Twitter handle. I know people are going to want to hear from you, but are you excited for the challenge? I know you are, but I mean, are you prepared? You ready to go?
Yeah. I've been waiting to finally get in a race with all those guys in one race. Regionals is probably the closest to big race besides Florida Relays that I've had this year. So yeah, to get all of them in the same race will be great, and gonna go out there and just, I guess we'll see who wants it more. And I know the times are gonna be fast, and it should just be a really good race.
Bryson, I do have one more question for you. You've had so many great accomplishments so far in your career at the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any particular race? It doesn't even necessarily have to be one that people would automatically think of. Is there a race in your career or an achievement in your career that you're most proud of at this point?
Most proud of. I think I'm still most proud of my state championship run. From 2010. Just the fact that no one had any idea who I was. I wasn't seeded first to win, and to go out there and get the win was just it pretty much shaped my career.
And to run a 46.8, if I remember correctly, I mean, that is a blazing high school time for anybody that's watching. I mean, that is fast. I've coached a champion in that event and was beside myself when I had a guy run 47.4. So, I mean, to run that kind of time is really something. That's an interesting answer. I like it.
Yeah. So, I think that's.
I do have to ask. They're naming the ACC Athlete of the Week this coming July, right? I mean, Athlete of the Year. I'm sorry.
I believe so.
Are you up in the running for that? Is there a final list of nominees, or how does that work?
I haven't seen any list or anything. I'm not really sure how it works.
Donald are going at it.
I'm not really sure how it works, but I mean, I would hope I'd be in the running, and it'd be just another great honor to have if I were to get it.
And what does that mean to you to be named the back-to-back Athlete of the Week in the ACC? That's not just track and field. That's not just Pitt. That's the entire ACC, every single sport going on at that time.
Just it was actually surprising. I thought like after a while they'd be like, you know what, let's see who else can get it. But for them to keep nominating me and to keep giving me the award was just amazing for me. I didn't even think it was a possible thing to do until it happened. So I was pretty excited once it started to get rolling, and I got it the first 2 weeks, and then for the third week, and so it was pretty exciting though.
Do they give you a certificate? Do they give you a plaque? How does that work?
Yeah, I get a certificate. They give a little certificate out. Usually, the athletic director sends me a little letter in the mail to congratulate me. So it doesn't go unrecognized. So
Did you have those hanging up around your apartment there, or did you kind of run out of room after the second one?
They're not hanging up, but they're in a folder, and I keep them and try not to get too ahead of myself. Just accept the award and keep it moving.
Well,
Hey,
Bryson, go
one
ahead, John.
question. Can I ask him one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you guys have been on a journey, you and Micah and Carvin now. You're all seniors. Have you guys been talking about that a lot as you prepare this week? I mean, this is kind of your last run together, your last opportunity, because you've had some misfortune at NCAAs. And
Yes.
last year, for a variety of reasons, you had some bad luck.
Right.
You guys got to be on point. I mean, have you been talking about that between the three of you? I mean, I know, you know, Desmond is a freshman, so this is all new to him. But the other three guys, this is it.
Yeah. I mean, it started at Penn Relays. We knew that we just knew that this was our. We started to sink in that this is our last time around, and this is the last time we'll probably be running with each other. And so, started at Penn Relays. We got the guys together, Desmond also, and we just talked about what we wanted to do, how we wanted to go out there and win it, and we were fortunate enough to get the win at Penn Relays. And from there on out, I think our confidence is just built. At regionals, we ran a pretty fast time at 3:03 without pushing the gas. So it's gonna be pretty exciting though, and we're excited to run at nationals together for the last time.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you. I know Michael will finish up here, but good luck to you guys, and give Coach Webb my best, and I can't wait to watch you guys get it done. I know you will, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bryson, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And Pitt doesn't win, you know, I got to pull for the Oregon Ducks a little bit. So if you do beat them, just don't beat them too bad. That's all I ask.
Sounds good.
All right, hey, take care now.
All right, thank you.
Peace, man.
All right, so let's get back to our Pirates talk. We want to thank Bryson Spratling for joining us once again. That was pretty cool. John, your in-depth analysis on the track and field NCAA scene is just, I can't even handle it right now. I feel like I just know so much more because of your questioning. Thank you so much.
So much research about track and field.
All right, we're up.
When he jumped in, the point that I wanted to make was our first-round draft pick. He kind of reminds me of the pitcher from The Rookie. Also, you know what I'm talking about? That was the first guy that I thought of. So
I mentioned that already, Gar, but I credited you because that's where I got it from. So.
In Pauly Shore reference, that goes to Mr. John Penline there. Yeah, but I just thought he looked like a kid with like a 15-year-old with curly hair. But we're at about half an hour mark, and we have to sign off in about 27 minutes here. So let's keep things moving with some Pittsburgh Penguins talk. And they just hired their general manager, Mr. Jim Rutherford, from Carolina, the Hurricanes. In his first move, he made a statement. He said, "Dan Bilesma, goodbye. You're out of here." Now, I personally wanted Pierre Maguire just because I thought it'd be hilarious just to watch all their reactions and for the entertainment value. And I wanted him to keep Dan Bilesma and announce it the same day he got hired because nothing would have made my life better than just trolling every single Penguins fan right there. But, John, what is your reaction to Rutherford hiring and the Bilesma firing?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think we all know that they basically brought in Rutherford to kind of teach Botterill the ropes because they really like Botterill, but he's 37 years old and he doesn't have the experience to run a team that has this many superstars in their prime. So Rutherford's been, brought in to kind of mentor him, and he did the same thing in Carolina with Ron Francis. And it's a solid hire, I guess. I mean, they're not really looking long term with this. Rutherford himself said he'll only be around for 2 or 3 years. So, I mean, it's just the only thing I don't like is it's just really, really weird. Like the timing is just weird to have a GM who's basically acting as a teacher for the next 2 or 3 years when this is probably the best you're going to get of Crosby and Malkin if we haven't seen that already. So. Hopefully he can come in and clean some things up. Obviously he made some bad deals, Jokinen, and it's going to be really awkward sitting down with Brandon Sutter after you just traded him a couple years ago. But I I can't really dislike it at all. He's definitely a lot better than Pierre, that's for sure.
Ingar?
Yeah, he was an interesting hire. I mean, I guess my initial response was, man, we kind of went with an old time retread here. And of course, you're immediately thinking, oh man, this is the same guy who got fleeced by Ray Shiro in the Jordan Stahl deal, and signed a guy like Alexander Semin for $7 million a year. I mean, it was a little bit of a surprise. But I guess when I kind of took a step back and thought about it a little bit more, you know, there's a little bit of stability with a guy like this, and I thought in his press conference it was interesting how candid he was on a number of fronts. From what John just pointed out about, I'm going to be here 2-3 years max, and he was very candid about the need for more grit and depth within the organization, and I thought that was good to hear. The only thing that I would be a little nervous about, and it does seem like Jason Botterill is the guy in waiting, but they also referenced Tom Fitzgerald and Bill Guerin, and you do have to wonder. I mean, I'm sure they all get along, but at some point when you're talking about grooming a successor, who are you grooming? I mean, it wasn't like they came out and said specifically it's going to be Jason Botterill. We're going to groom one of these guys to be the guy. And you wonder at a certain point, is there going to be some infighting? Is there going to be jealousy? Who's going to be making the calls? Sometimes, you can have too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. And I hope that's not going to be the case with the Penguins. But beyond that, I mean, it was a safe pick. And I agree with John. I don't think that going the Pierre Maguire route at this juncture is the way to go. I mean, you went with the guy that you at least know has experience. And for all the talk about how poorly he was his last few years in Carolina, he did take an organization that was stuck in Greensboro, North Carolina, that a lot of people questioned was going to survive at all at a certain point, built that team from the ground up in a lot of ways, and had a core group that won Stanley Cup. It wasn't like it was a bunch of hired guns. Those were guys that were with the team for a number of years when they won in 2006. So he has done it in the past. So hopefully he can take a team that doesn't need a whole lot and make it work.
Yeah, a lot of people say because of their struggles the past few years, why would you get Rutherford? He's been horrible. I think it's just kind of, he just needs to change the scenery. I think it's one of those things. It sounds like a cop-out. Who knows? Maybe it is. But as far as a hockey standpoint, I would rather see him than Pierre. But just for my own entertainment, and how close DD and I are with being entertained when it comes to sports first and foremost, that's why I wanted Pierre. Now, I was looking at the potential coaches, and I wasn't really impressed at all. And I hate to say this, but I actually agree with Mark Madden, and I cannot stand that guy, but I'm going to agree with him on this point that I think Jock Martin will be the coach this year, waiting for Babcock next year. I could definitely see that scenario playing out. Am I crazy to? Well, I am crazy to agree with him, but does he actually have a point, John?
I don't believe the Babcock thing for a second. I mean, I hope it happens because he's a heck of a coach, but I just feel like I feel everybody talks about how arrogant the Penguins organization is and how they think they can just do this, that, and the other and not have any issues. The fans are no different. The media is no different. He thinks that Mike Babcock is going to come here. I'd love to see it. I hope he's right for once. But it seems like a pipe dream. It really does. It's right up there with Yager coming back. It's right up there with Hossa re-signing, with Zach Parise signing here, with Ryan Suter signing here. I mean, you're not going to always get what you want. And I hope, again, for the 100th time, I hope he does come here. But I think, I think Detroit would be crazy to just let their coach go, even if they do have somebody in the minors and they're starting to rebuild. But to just let him go so he can go sign and be with the Penguins, a team that's now in their conference, I think that would be ridiculous.
Who else is out there you'd like to see them pursue right now?
Mike Babcock. I mean, to be honest, I guess John Stevens, and I know, Gar, you're not a huge fan of John Stevens. I'm not really even a huge fan of John Stevens, but I mean, you have to look at the fact that he's been behind the bench now. I believe he's in Los Angeles. I mean, they're 2 games away from winning the Cup again. His teams when he coached the Flyers beat the Penguins, but he still was able to get them there. And I don't know. It's so weird speculating about coaches because a coach that bombed somewhere else could thrive in a new environment. I mean, we haven't really followed John Stevens' career as a coach. Like we know Dan Bilesma, we know what his issues are and what he has the biggest problems with. So if he were to go with like Washington, which he wouldn't because they already signed somebody, but if he were to go to a rival, we could say, well, we know in a best-of-7 series he's going to bang his head against the wall and not make any major changes. And with John Stevens, I mean, the guy's been kind of out of the spotlight since he was fired in Philadelphia. So it's just I guess I would say that if they decided to bring in just keep Jacques Martin for 1 year, then maybe I'd pick up more steam, pick up a little bit more on Mike Babcock possibly getting here. But if they sign a coach for 3 or 4 years, then he's not going to come here. So. Right. We'll just have to see. I think it's more you just kind of have to react once the coach is hired. You obviously don't want anybody like Trotz or Torts or
Keenan.
Mike Keenan because those guys will just destroy the locker room. But if they brought in a John Stevens or even a Rick Tocchet, I mean I think it'd be interesting. But we just don't have enough history on them yet to say whether or not it's a good move.
Yeah, first off, total agreement with John about Mike Babcock. I mean, that would be a great hire. But why in the world would Mike Babcock leave Detroit? You can talk about rebuilding and all that, and that's fine. But, I kind of liken the Detroit Red Wings to, like, the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL. I mean, they're just a top-rate organization. And that's nothing against the Penguins, but it's not like he's, like leaving, Winnipeg to join the Penguins. I mean, I know that you've got the whole, Crosby Malkin thing, and that's all fine and dandy, but I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me he's in a great spot, a great hockey organization, a fan base that really supports their team. It's going to take a lot for him to leave. And I'm going to throw out one, and it's not an original thought really, but I totally agreed with Joe Starkey. I think that Tom Fitzgerald would be a very interesting choice as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a guy who was a hell of a player in terms of being one of those gritty, guys that was a captain that can, really motivate a team. He's been in the organization. He has coaching experience. And, Jacques Martin just kind of seems like a lazy, okay, we'll just go with Jacques Martin and see what happens from here. Whereas, with a guy like Tom Fitzgerald, who people rave about, I mean, maybe you're getting a guy who can really turn things around and will be a little bit more detail-oriented in terms of understanding that you need a team to win, not a couple of stars. You need guys top to bottom who are going to be able to get the job done and that are going to be expected to be accountable at all times. He seems like one of those kind of guys. And if he's really going to be third or fourth on the totem pole in this GM and waiting thing, why not throw him behind the bench and see what he can do?
Well, I would say that the only thing with Jacques Martin is, I mean, if you want to talk about somebody who's able to bring guys together as a team, I mean, just look at what he did with that 2010 Canadiens team. I mean, they took down Washington, then they took down Pittsburgh, and they did it basically by putting their entire team in the net and then counterpunching, which is basically how the Penguins have lost every playoff series for the last couple of years. But the only thing with Jacques Martin is he's very defensive oriented, and this is still a team that needs to work on playing defense, and a team I think that could probably use somebody like him that could institute a system that isn't overly complicated and actually has a plan to get the puck out of their own end instead of the game plan just being, well, we'll just keep the puck away from the other team and they'll never score. Because we both know, all three of us know that it's just not going to happen. I mean, the other team's going to have the puck eventually, so you're going to have to find a way to stop them. And I think that was a major flaw in Bilesma's system, and I think that Martin would probably bring a much more defensive focus and maybe make it a little bit easier for them to play as a team. I'm not saying that he's the ideal hire, and I'm certainly not saying that Tom Fitzgerald wouldn't be a good candidate either. But I do think that if they were to stick with Martin, even if it was for more than just a year, I think that they would still be getting a much better coach than what they just left behind.
Yeah, and when I said the Babcock, by the way, I didn't say he was gonna. I didn't think he was gonna leave Detroit this year because his contract's up at the end of next year. So that's why I think Martin for a 1-year stopgap. I think that was you, John, that said that if they hire him for 1 year, then you can take the Babcock to the Penguins maybe a little bit more seriously there because his contract will be up at the end of next year. We got about 15 minutes left. Let's get into some Pittsburgh Pirates talk. They've been playing a lot better lately. And on I think it was Wednesday, there were conflicting reports as to when Gregory Polanco will be up. Tim Williams from Pirates Prospects said Friday. Ken Rosenthal confirmed it. Chris Cotillo, Dan Zangrilli from 93.7 The Fan, all of them said that their sources told them Friday. Then Bill Brink, Rob Biertemple, Dejan Kovacevic, all said no, he won't be up Friday. They're not going to do it. And sure enough, Friday went by, Saturday went by, and now Sunday, and no Gregory Polanco, even though the Super 2 deadline has passed. If he came up on Friday, I think it would have been 2 years, 115 days of service time. So I'm expecting an email roughly in about 4 or 5 hours letting me know that Gregory Polanco will be making his debut tomorrow night, or a something during the Neil Huntington show on 93.7 The Fan, or when he meets up with all the reporters, saying that Gregory Polanco will be up on Monday. So all the ticket sales are going to spike, and you'll get that weekday crowd for the Cubs because you're already going to get that weekend crowd for the Brewers. Guys, how shocked would you be if Gregory Polanco does not get the call up, today? Gar.
I'd be real shocked. I mean, I think you're spot on. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm actually gonna probably head down to the game today. I have a ticket, so with all this rain, I'm kind of like oscillating back and forth whether I want to make the drive. But I was definitely getting ready to tune into the Neil Huntington show. I think that there's a very good chance that that's where he'll drop the news, because you figure, Mike, when you really consider things, they've got a 4-game set, and let's just say for posterity's sake, without Gregory Polanco, they were probably going to average somewhere around 15,000 a game. If they even get an additional, 7 to 10,000 per game, which I don't think is unrealistic with the Arts Fest going on and blah blah blah, you're talking about basically adding a sellout during a weekday, a 4-game weekday set. And we can talk about whether or not that's the reason to bring Gregory Polanco up or not. That's still an extra game that you can get, ticket sales from, and it makes all the sense in the world. That's good business. And we talked about the way that our little spark plug in right field has been playing. I mean, there hasn't been a major reason with the way Harrison's played to rush him up just because people want to see him play. So there's no doubt. I think it's going to happen, and he'll probably be in right field tomorrow.
And by the way, before I get John's opinion on this, Garrett Cole was just placed on the 15-day DL, retroactive to June 4th for shoulder fatigue. Jeff Locke, as we all thought, got called up today. He'll make the start in the finale against the Brewers. But Cole on the DL with shoulder fatigue, that's not something people want to hear, but it's better than an elbow issue. So, John, getting back to Polanco.
Or a shoulder injury. I know a lot of people will complain, what is shoulder fatigue? But the hell with them. By the way, Gar, if you look here, you'll see that the storm is mostly passing through. So even if you were to leave right now, by the time you get down to the park, the rain should be over. So you should be perfectly fine today.
You the man.
I'm just looking out for you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you have to call him up. This week I would definitely expect him to come up. I know that they wanted to give him 10 games in the leadoff spot, and he's at like 7 or 8. So, I mean, I could see them calling him up Wednesday. I'd like to see him tomorrow. But they need another pitcher, and I like the price to Bucks hashtag you have there, Mike, because they do need another starter. And that really is still, the big thing. And they just need to play better defense. I mean, the game they played yesterday was awful, and it's not because their right fielder wasn't playing well, and it's not because Gregory Polanco wasn't in the lineup. It's because, their third baseman's throwing the ball all over the place, and their first baseman's throwing the ball all over the place. So, they just need to play better defense. When Polanco comes up, he'll make an impact, but they aren't going to be a playoff team until they pitch better and until they play better defense.
So he will make an impact eventually, but let me just remind you that it might take some time. We saw two prospects just get called off. Oscar Taveras hitting 207, 1 homer, 2 RBIs, 3 runs after getting back-to-back hits in his first 2 games. John Singleton, he's not in the same tier, but he's a pretty good prospect. 158, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, 1 stolen base in his first week's games. And then you have George Springer, who's been red hot over the past 3 weeks, but his first 3 weeks up in the league, people were wondering, should the Astros send him back down because he was pretty bad. So I'm expecting Polanco to follow in the footsteps somewhere in between of all of them, start off with a very hot Monday, collect another hit on Tuesday, an offer on Wednesday, and then you'll see the struggles continue the rest of the week, and then he'll bounce back because that's just how young prospects are. So just remember that. Do not clamor and say we need to have Starling Marte, Josh Harrison, Andrew McCutchen in this outfield because Gregory Polanco is struggling a little bit. And yeah, I like the price to the Bucks more than I like Samardzija to the Bucks. Since you brought that up about getting a pitcher, A, he's just a much better pitcher. B, they're in the same division, and if you have to trade Josh Bell to the Cubs, I don't really want to see that. Though I do like Samardzija, I really do a lot. And for his career, I'd rather see him in Pittsburgh than going somewhere like Baltimore or Toronto, where he's just going to get hammered left and right. But also, the Tampa Bay Rays, they're in last place. They are the worst team in baseball as of Friday night, I believe it was. So it's been very disappointing there. So I definitely like to see the Pirates make a run at him and his about $14.5 million salary before he's a free agent. How about you guys? Gar.
Oh, that would be awesome. I mean, David Price, he's a gamer, man. He's a guy who gets it done. He's certainly better than anything the Pirates have right now. And, let's just get right down to it. I know John referred to it. I know you did also over the last couple of podcasts. We can talk about right field. We can talk about Pedro. We can talk about anything you want to talk about in terms of hitting. They actually were the best hitting team in the major leagues in May, by the way. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. If they can't pitch and they can't get good starting pitching, it does not matter. They're going to be maybe a 500 team at best. I mean, you cannot have starters consistently. You're bracing yourself every time they bring a guy out, and you're almost thankful when you get 5 innings. And that's just not going to work. When you're trotting Charlie Morton and Edison Volquez out, and you're expecting guys that really should be 5th starters to come in and beat the Cardinals and beat the Brewers and be in the mix, it's just not going to happen. So I'm all for Price coming to the Pirates, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the draft is really annoying again, because if you draft Jacob Gatewood, if you draft Monte Harrison, you've got some solid prospects in your system, and then you can afford to deal some of those other guys away. Not to say that those guys are going to pan out. They could be awful. They could never get to where Josh Bell will. But you at least feel like you have a little bit more insurance if you have another, excellent outfielder. This is also where I'm looking and I'm saying, Dayon talked about how the Pirates have $12 million in revenue from last year, and it's about how much they spend by the end of the year, not at the beginning. And then I look at the draft and I see the players they selected, and other than Keller and maybe Trace Supak and, maybe another high school arm that they got late in the draft that they might want to try to sign, their draft spending is probably not going to be that high. So I wonder if they're going to take that $12 million and also the draft spending that they didn't make to try to go out and get a guy like David Price. We'll find out whether or not they get somebody like that. I mean, if they go out and they get David Price and they take on his entire salary, and they only have to give up, I mean, Josh Bell's a great prospect, but he's not the next Barry Bonds. And maybe, a B prospect pitcher for him. I mean, that's a good move. So, but if they don't, or if they just, they don't feel like they want to part with some of those prospects, then you have to look at the draft again and go, what were they thinking? And I think it's all connected. I really do. Maybe I'm just being an apologist. I don't know, but just based on just based on the picks that I saw, and I know that, Mike, you agree with me, it just doesn't make sense what they decided to do this weekend. And, I mean, I don't know if there's been any rumors about David Price being traded to the Pirates. I don't think there are, but that they're going to try to dump him when he's got one more year left on his contract, and like you said, they're in last place. So I wouldn't totally rule it out, and yeah, I would absolutely want to see David Price in a Pirate uniform. He's an absolute stud. If he comes in, he's the number one ace, and then all of a sudden you've got Garrett Cole as your number two, and then then it's whoever. I mean, you have Liriano as the third pitcher. I don't care.
Liriano's out of rotation. But the Pirates would love him here. So would 28 other teams as well. They'd love to have a pitcher like David Price. But we did just find out Kendrys Morales signed with the Minnesota Twins, and the Pirates were were number 2 on his list. So that's kind of surprising. I wish they would have traded Connor Joe or Joe Schmo, whatever his name was, at number 39 for Kendrys Morales from the beginning. No, that wouldn't even be him. That would have been Sideshow Bob, the kid they drafted in the first round, the shortstop out of Arizona. So we only have about 3 minutes left. We're going to have to get to the Ben Roethlisberger contract situation next week, hoping we have a podcast next week. I won't be here. I'll be in Seattle. So hopefully you two and maybe Matt Shetler can hold it down if we can get that worked out. If not, we'll be back the week after. So let's really quickly go through our final words for the week. Gar, do you want to start?
Yeah, it's totally fine. I guess my final word would be, for the Pirates, again, the Pirates right now, we can talk about all the offense we want to talk about, but they've got to upgrade their pitching staff, and they need to do it quickly. I think you're really onto something with the idea of going after a guy like Jeff Samardzija or Price if he's available. But, people need to start thinking a little bit more along the lines of starting pitching and not point the finger at Pedro Alvarez or who's in right field. I mean, until they upgrade that pitching staff, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the Joneses. That's what I have to say live from Kandahar.
John?
Well, it goes back to the draft. I mean, I just can't get over it. I really can't. I mean, I watched the whole thing up until like midnight or whatever it was, watching every single pick, and those first 2 picks just made 0 sense to me. And then I thought, okay, well then maybe they're going to go after like some big, some guys that are going to fall on day 2, that they're going to try to spend more money on. But then they didn't. Then they went after more college kids, So I don't know what they were thinking. And again, we don't know how this is going to turn out. I mean, Cole Tucker could be the best player out of this entire draft, but you cannot tell me that another team was going to take him in the first round and he wouldn't have lasted until number 39. You probably could have taken him. He was probably available with your first pick on the second day, to be honest. So I mean, I can't make any sense of it. Hopefully, their basic plan was just we hate everybody in this draft and we're going to save as much money as possible and try to use that on, funding a trade or trying to get a big time free agent. But that doesn't, the trade sounds more like what the Pirates would do, but time is running out. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they were thinking. I'm just flabbergasted right now. It's definitely the worst draft that they've had since Daniel Moskis.
Well,
all right, and mine is kind of along the same lines as Gar. I have a 2-parter actually because I just want to rant and yell a little bit. But the first part is that I agree it's not the offense, it is the pitching, but also it's the defense. They have 51 errors. That's the most in the National League, tied with the Washington Nationals, and second most in all of baseball behind the innings. They made 4th in the first 3 innings yesterday. They are horrible defensively. I think they need some of that Lastings Milledge focus. That's what they need. They need to go out there, get him in there, get somebody to help them focus on the mechanics. Not only that, but when Edison Volquez uncorked the wild pitch, it was either number 31 or 41, I can't remember, of the season, which also leads the big leagues. They need to get back to the fundamentals on defense. And the big rant I want to go on that I've been wanting to for 3 weeks now, but I just now remembered it, is can we stop with the retirement tours? Really? Derek Jeter's really worth a surfboard out in California. The whole thing started with Chipper Jones 2 years ago, where they're just going to find somebody each year, put it on the picture board, say, congratulations for your retirement. That's it. We don't need gifts. We don't need surfboards. We don't need these cowboy boots for Mariano Rivera, Derek Jeter. What about Paul Konerko? He's getting overlooked. If you're going to do it for one, how do you distinguish from the other? I'm sick of it. I hope after this year it never happens again. Come on, Bud Selig. And, guys, if you didn't see, Twins made Kendrys Morales signing official, designated Jason Kubel for assignment. Any interest there in Jason Kubel?
Nah.
Retread.
Okay.
3 years ago. 3 years ago, yeah. But I agree, Mike. If I was pitching against Derek Jeter, I'd give him a souvenir. It'd be right in his ribs.
Right in the rib, just like you did after Kyle Seager took you deep. Well, guys, that is all the time we have. John has to go relive his past and perform on the softball field, or so he hopes. And Gar's going to try to catch a flight out of Afghanistan to get to the Pirate game in time. And
It's pouring, dude.
Since it just hit 9 a.m. out here, I am going to go back to bed.
Oh.
So, the three of us, we'll see you later. Hopefully, we'll be back next week, these two at least. And if not, have a good couple weeks. We'll see you.